down did the man fall and die from his injuries. And so it was that where he died became the place of the abbot's end. Whether the story is true or not, I cannot say. But I suppose it is as good an explanation for the name as any, and more interesting than most. Abbot's End lay on a wind-swept spit of land, jutting boldly into the sea, a day's ride southwest of Wareham, in the kingdom of Wessex. Though no king would ever have reason to visit Abbot's End. It was a settlement like any other, home to simple folk who expected nothing more from life than food and shelter and the rearing of children. A good Christian might say that such a humble place was ever likely to be blessed, and by that blessing suffer, as its namesake had suffered, and as all martyrs do. But a pagan would spit at such words, claiming the inconsequence of the place was reason enough that it be culled like a sick animal. For the village of Abbot's End no longer exists, and I am to blame for its end. I worked for old Iggulden the carpenter, felling ash and alderwood for the cups and platters he turned on his lathe. "I know, old man, all men must eat and drink," I would say wearily, interpreting Iggulden's gesture of banging two plates together and nodding to some passing man or woman. "And so shall we, if we keep making the things others need." And Iggulden would grunt and nod, because he was mute. And so I spent most days alone in the wooded valley east of the village, cutting and shaping timber with Iggulden's axe. I had a roof over my head and food in my belly, and I stayed away from those who would rather I had never come to that place, those who feared me for my blood-red eye, and because I could not tell them whence I came. The carpenter alone did not hate or fear me. He was hard-working and old, and could not speak, and he would not indulge in such emotions. He had taken me in, and I repaid his kindness with blisters and sweat, and that was that. But the others were not like Iggulden. Wolf Weird the priest would make the sign of the cross when he saw me, and the women would tell their daughters to stay away from me. Even the boys kept their distance for the most part, though sometimes they would hide amongst the trees and jump out to beat me with sticks. But only when there were 3 or 4 of them, and all full of mead. Even then, the beatings lacked the fury to break bones, for everyone respected old Iggulden's skill. They needed his cups and platters, and barrels and wheels, and so they usually left me alone. There was a girl, Olwen. She was red-cheeked and plump, and we had lain together after the Easter feast, when the only living things not drunk on mead were the dogs. The mead had made me brave, and I had found Olwen drawing water from the well, and without a word I took her hand and led her to a patch of tall, damp ryegrass. She seemed willing enough, enthusiastic even, when it came to it. But in truth, it was a graceless fumble, and afterwards Olwen was ashamed. Or perhaps she was afraid of what her kin would do if they found out about us. Either way, after that clumsy night, she avoided me. For 2 years I lived with Iggulden, learning his craft so I could take his place at the lathe when he was gone. I would wake before sunrise and take a rod and line down to the rocks to catch mackerel for our breakfast. Then I would scour the woods for the best trees from which Iggulden would make whatever people needed: tables, benches, cartwheels, bows, arrows, and sword scabbards. From him I learned the magic of different trees, like the way the yews heartwood gives the warbow its strength, whilst the sapwood makes it flexible. Until in the end I knew from sight and touch alone whether or not a tree would suit a certain purpose. I would spend hours with the oaks especially, though I did not know why they fascinated me, only that they had some power over my imagination. In their presence, strange half